Welcome to Nutty Buddy Sports.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nutty Buddy Sports. And today I'll briefly just discuss the official retirement of Tom Brady. We kind of heard this weekend that he was going to retire, but then there was a little bit of waffling back and forth reports. But finally, we hear that Tom Brady is retired. So let's just talk about it for a very, very brief moment. Obviously, there's a lot of people exhaling right now because as fun as of a career as it's been, it's nice that we get to move on from Tom Brady, but at the same time, it is also a little sad. And as a Dolphin fan for many, many years, my entire life, to witness what Tom Brady was able to do throughout his career was amazing. It's really like awe-inspiring in a sense. Like you're just amazed by how he was able to do what he did. Now, he was in 10 Super Bowls. He won 7. He lost 3. But the fact that he was in a Super Bowl half of his career is basically, I think it was 22-year career, and he was to 10 Super Bowls, is astounding. Just crazy. Some of the stats that he ends his career with: 84,000 yards, 520 yards, I should say, 84,520 yards, 1,451 touchdowns, and 624 interceptions, in a 97.6 Q quarterback rating. So he was spectacular throughout his career. And even this last year when he had 5,300 yards, you didn't think it looked like he was actually going to retire. It looked almost like he could play a couple more years. He had 43 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. This isn't like when Peyton Manning retired, when you knew it was kind of time, or Ben Roethlisberger's another good one who has retired this year as well, or had retired this year as well. But it's just amazing to see him retire on top of his game, because I think most of us would rather athletes do that. So the last moments we remember him are him at his peak. Now, what made Tom Brady so unique was he wasn't really elite at any passing. He wasn't like a gifted passer. Nobody would say that. Nobody would say he has an elite arm, his arm strength, or his deep ball was elite, or his accuracy might not been something. Well, that would be the closest thing you would probably say that was elite. But even if you would say it was just great, he was great at everything. And that's what made him so good. He didn't have elite arm talent. He had a great arm talent, right? And that's what made him so good. And him showing up in the moments that he did overall is why we will remember Tom Brady for what Tom Brady was. And that is simply, he's the GOAT. And I think that's why he's so fascinating, is because although he wasn't elite at everything that you need to be elite at as a quarterback, he was so great at everything that you're just like, well, he's the GOAT, because not only does he have the stats to back it up, but really the wins back it up. Now, Bill Simmons, way better podcaster than I. He is, to me, the pod father, they call him, because he really started the podcast trend. But I love how he always talks about how careers of great players come in like waves or different phases. And that's what Tom Brady's career was. He had a phase early on, right, where he was more of a game manager. He did enough to help the team win. And then he became like this elite passer, especially when he got Welker and Moss on his team. He goes from that to being sort of a hybrid of both, where he can waffle between being a game manager and playing where he needs to play or make big plays when he had to, versus being like that elite quarterback that he could be, and he could turn it off and on, which was amazing to watch. And then he kind of became that elite passer again. I feel like it's so interesting to me, because this last year he was at career highs in basically a lot of his statistical categories. And I'm just like, it's interesting that now he chose when to retire. Again, I'm happy he does it while he's on top, but what he was doing at the age of 44 was awesome. Okay, there's no doubt about it. I just want to talk briefly about a couple of my favorite moments of Tom Brady's career. As a Dolphin fan, I didn't look at a lot of the moments he had as amazing because they oftentimes hurt me. My favorite moments are probably more tongue in cheek, like, oh, remember that moment Miami where it was able to hook and lateral to Kenyon Drake to run a touchdown to beat Tom Brady, right? Like that's a moment that Tom Brady, but honestly, the one moment I always will remember is probably against the Jets where Revis was covering Moss and Moss catches that one-handed pass that was like thrown to Brady. And it was kind of like a memory I'll have of both players where it was just like, how did he do that? That was one moment. Similar to what happened with Mike Evans and Ramsey this past year in the NFC Championship game. The other moment is the coming back from 28-3 down. That was probably the biggest moment of Tom Brady's career where you're like, what did he do that was truly amazing? Now, obviously, there were other factors that helped that comeback, but you got to give credit where credit due, and Tom Brady gets that. Now, Bill Belichick, a big reason why Tom Brady's career was so successful, because even when Tom Brady didn't have the weapons, he always had a really good special teams and a really good defense. And if you can win 2 out of 3 phases of football, you're more likely going to win the game. And Tom Brady could carry an offense basically on his own. So Bill Belichick kind of knew that. So he built the defense and the special teams and let Tom Brady and McDaniels handle the offense for the majority of Tom Brady's career. There was a season in 2016, Tom Brady didn't have a ton of touchdowns. He had 28, which I guess is still good enough, but it's like average touchdowns for quarterbacks. But he had 2 interceptions because that's all Tom Brady needed to do that year. So he and Bill Belichick did something that we'll probably never see in the NFL ever, and that is that dynasty. I think that's truly a dynasty that they built in New England for that 20-year period. And then, of course, we might see it, right, with Mahomes and Andy Reid, but we see even with Mahomes, as great of a talent that Mahomes is, he still struggles where you saw Brady succeed. So it's sort of going to be fascinating watching Mahomes' career, but in relations to Tom Brady, right now he's the GOAT. I think most of us football fans really appreciate and respect what Tom Brady has been able to do in his NFL career. I personally, as a Dolphin fan, respect and appreciate what him and Bill Belichick have done, and envious. We're all envious because we would all love our franchise to do what the New England Patriots with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick had done. We wish our teams would do that. And so there's a little envy in all of us, but overall, great career. We all appreciated him to a certain extent, I'm sure. Thank him. We want to thank him because of him, the NFL is what it is today. Partly, he has a hand in that. And great story, great player. I don't know what else I can say, but awesome. Just awesome. Now let's go into the Buccaneers real quick. I wanted my younger brother on to talk because he's a big Buccaneers fan, but I'll have him on some other time on the podcast or whatever. But really, the Buccaneers, I see, could go a couple different routes. They could try to trade for one of the established veterans that are right now available. That'd be Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. But I honestly don't think they have enough to offer in comparison to the other teams. So Denver has more to offer that I think would be more enticing to the Packers. And there's other teams as well in the mix. And I don't know how much the Bucs could offer to get someone like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson to come there. Now, with that said, that is one route they can go. The other route is to go with Kyle Trask, their, I think, 3rd round pick this past year, who is very raw. They could give him a year and see what happens. And if they are a top 10 pick type of team, they can draft a quarterback next year. Or they might be pleasantly surprised with the talent that they have in that quarterback. I think tearing it down, sort of allowing Kyle Trask to take the reins and try to see what he can do might be the best route for Tampa Bay. You let Chris Godwin go. And if your season ends up, sort of stumbling, maybe then you can even look to trade some players for picks and just reset the entire franchise. They got a Super Bowl ring out of it. They got a chance at another Super Bowl with Tom Brady. So it was worth everything that they had to do to get Tom Brady. But now the Bucs are definitely in a crossroads of what they're going to do now. They have a roster to compete now, but in this NFL we live in, we watch, you need a quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do. Okay, that's all I got for today's show. Again, please subscribe, like the channel. If you'd like to hear the recap of the NFC and AFC championship games, the podcast, the links are down below. And then what was your favorite Tom Brady moment? Or what do you think of Tom Brady? Leave that in the comments down below. Thanks so much for listening. And also, one more thing. Let me know what you think Tampa Bay should do moving forward. Now, thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys soon.